Hey everyone, and welcome to the start of another reading vlog. So in this reading vlog, I am going to be reading both King of Scars and Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. I have actually filmed this vlog already. I'm just popping in now to do a bit of an intro because when I first started filming this, I wasn't sure if I was going to keep it spoiler free or whether I was going to do spoilers, but I can confirm that this video will contain spoilers for both King of Scars and Rule of Wolves, but also the entire Grishaverse to date. Although to be fair, if you've read King of Scars but you haven't read Rule of Wolves yet, then you could watch the first half of this video, which is my King of Scars reading vlog, and then click off before it gets to Rule of Wolves, because I did actually read King of Scars before Rule of Wolves had even come out, so there's no spoilers for Rule of Wolves in that part. I feel like I'm talking really fast. I hope that makes sense, but yeah, hopefully you enjoy this vlog. I'm going to stop rambling and let's get into the main video. And yeah, let's just say that this was a journey. Hello, so I have made a start on King of Scars. I'm about 4 chapters in. I think I'm around page 60, 65. So I thought I would do a quick update with my thoughts so far, like my initial reaction. And I'm really enjoying this so far, but I had a feeling that I would because I do really like Leigh Bardugo's writing, and I knew that I would enjoy being back in this world with these characters. Although I know that one of the main criticisms of this book that I've seen is that it was marketed as a Nikolai book, but actually it's told from 3 different perspectives. So you have Nikolai's perspective, but then you also have Zoya's perspective and also Nina's point of view. So far we know that Nikolai is struggling after what happened in Shadow and Bone with the Darkling, because he keeps turning into this bird monster, and Zoya is responsible for making sure that people don't find out. There's also the separate storyline with Nina, who is in Fjerda, I want to say, where she's helping Grisha to escape to Ravka. The only other thing that's happened so far is that this bridge appeared out of nowhere that's seemingly made from bone. But yeah, I don't really have any theories yet on what direction this book is going to go in, or even what the plot is going to be, because I did avoid looking at reviews before picking this up. I didn't want to accidentally be spoiled or see too much. I'd rather experience it for myself. So interested to see what's going to happen next. Okay, so I'm about 160 pages into King of Scars now, and I think I'm following what's going on, but there's a lot going on right now, and so it's taken me a lot to process and follow everything. Basically, Ravka is in trouble as usual, and Nikolai is trying to do what's best for his country as king. And so he's trying to keep both Kirsch and Novi Zem as allies, because Ravka's in a lot of debt and Kirsch has money, but then Novi Zem also has the Zherda, which is what they need to create the antidote to Zherda Parem. Really sorry if I'm pronouncing anything wrong, by the way, but this is the first time I've had to say these words out loud, and so I'm not really sure like 100% on the pronunciation. But yeah, Zoya has now convinced Nikolai that he needs to find a wife to secure an heir to the throne. There's also this new cult that seems to be worshipping the Darkling as a saint, and all of these miracles that are happening around Ravka seem to be spiraling out from the place where the Darkling died. And there's these rumours that are floating around that the Darkling's essence might still be out there in the world, so he might come back, which I really hope that doesn't happen. I don't want the Darkling to come back. I liked his conclusion at the end of Ruin and Rising. I also really don't like the resurrection trope. It was one of the main issues that I had with Ruin and Rising and what happened with Mel. So I hope he stays dead, as harsh as that might sound, because I did like the Darkling as a character. I didn't love him, and I definitely didn't ship him with Alina. Why would anyone think that that was a good idea? The Darkling is a murderer. He did a lot of bad things. And so I feel like we need a new bad guy. I feel like we need something different rather than just bringing the Darkling back. So yeah, like I said, a lot going on right now. And while I do like Nikolai as a character and I'm enjoying his perspective and to a certain extent Zoya's perspective, I think what I'm enjoying most so far are Nina's chapters, because it's really interesting to see how she's processing her grief after what happened at the end of Crooked Kingdom. And there was a scene where she was finally burying Matthias Matthias, I can't remember how to say his name. There was a scene where she was finally burying him, and I felt really emotional because it took me back to how I felt at the end of Crooked Kingdom and how much I cried, because I had managed to avoid all spoilers for the Grishaverse to that point, and so it broke me. It's one of the most I've cried, I think, at a book ever. Hey everyone, so I'm about halfway through now, and I'm really struggling to form words around how I'm feeling, because I have a very strong emotional attachment to this series. It's the series that got me back into reading fantasy last year. And when I read the first 5 books in this series, I finished them, like all 5 of them, within the space of about a week, because there was something so addictive about them and they were so compelling, and I loved the characters and just the world. And I'm not getting that same feeling with this book. There's something very off about the pacing. It feels very slow in places, but then also certain things seem to be skimmed over. And there's a lot going on, And I think it doesn't help that because we're switching back and forth between Nina and what she's doing, and then also Nikolai and Zoya, that again is just a little bit jarring. Even during certain scenes where I feel like I should have been more excited, like when they were in the chapel and Zoya was almost kidnapped, even that scene, like it made it a little bit more interesting, but most of the time I've just been kind of bored. And I don't want to say that it's disappointing, because I didn't have very high expectations going into this, because I've heard a lot of people say that this is not their favourite book in the series, but I want more of Nina's perspective and less of Nikolai and Zoya. I'm also getting the feeling that there's going to be some kind of romance between Nikolai and Zoya, and I'm not here for it. I don't like it. I might change my mind in the second half of the book, but right now I don't really see it. I don't feel any kind of chemistry between them, and it just doesn't really make sense to me. I am still intrigued to learn what is actually going on and how the 2 storylines are gonna merge, because I'm assuming that they're gonna come together at some point. And especially with the way that the last chapter ended, it seems like Nikolai and Zoya have been shifted into some kind of parallel dimension or alternative realm, and so that is, it's intriguing. I'd like to know where they are. And so in that sense, I do still want to keep on reading. Like, I'm not going to DNF this book. I am still enjoying it. I know that I'm being really harsh. I just really hope that things do pick up in the second half. Okay, so I was really confused why there was a dragon inside this alternative reality, but it turns out that the dragon is actually a saint, and there's a few of these saints that are trapped inside the fold that were trapped there by the Darkling's power. And because part of the Darkling's power is still inside Nikolai, they need him to burn the monster out so that they can be free. And they're saying that once they're free, they'll become mortal again. But I don't think that's what's going to happen. I'm making a prediction now that there's something else going on. Good morning. So I have been making progress on King of Scars, and I really want to try and finish this today, because I think I've got less than 150 pages left to go. And I am definitely enjoying this second half more than I was enjoying the first half. Nikolai was one of my favourite characters in the original trilogy, but I'm just not feeling the same vibe from him in this book. He feels almost like a different character, and I know that he's older and that he's been affected by what happened with the Darkling, but I feel like his personality just isn't there. Nina's perspective is definitely still my favourite. I feel like that's what's carrying the book for me at the moment. I wish in a way that this had been a Nina book. I wish that we'd got her perspective alone, and then maybe Adric's perspective, or Leonie, or Han, the new Grisha girl that's been introduced. I think that would have been so much more interesting, having everyone in one place rather than it feeling like a split story. I know I've still got a little while to go, but at the moment I'm really struggling to process how I'm gonna rate this, because it feels like a 3 stars, and that's pushing it. But I've heard so many good things about the ending to this, and that is one thing actually. To be fair, I don't really have any idea how this book is going to end. I've heard some people say that it does end well and that the ending is amazing, so maybe that will change my mind, but At the moment, I feel a little bit lost, not gonna lie. Okay, so two things. First of all, I'd kind of guessed that they were gonna be betrayed by the Saints in the Fold. Kind of saw that come in. I might have even mentioned it earlier, so that wasn't a huge surprise. But what was a surprise was the identity of Han's real dad, or Han's dad, not her real dad, her actual dad. I mean, he is her real dad. What am I saying? That I did not see come in, so that was kind of cool. Really enjoying the second half more than the first half. The action has definitely picked up. So it's going to be interesting to see how this book ends. So I finished the book and I hated it. I really wish that I had filmed my reaction to me finishing this book, because that last chapter and that last page, it was not a good time. It was not a good time. It's really funny because I filmed my April TBR last week when I first started this book, and I was really enjoying it at the time, and I was really excited to read Rule of Wolves next month. And now I don't know how it all went downhill so quickly, and I am still excited for Rule of Wolves. I think it's more like a nervous excitement because I can't see it being any worse than this. And just from the title of the book, I am thinking maybe it's going to focus more on Nina, and Nina's storyline in this was incredible. I really enjoyed that, and so I'm really excited to see where that goes next. I've mentioned before on my channel that I use something called Corepile to rate and review all of the books that I read. It's basically a spreadsheet that was created by G at Book Roast, and I do have a link to it in my description for anyone who wants to find out more. But you basically rate a book out of 10 for certain things like characters, plot, intrigue, and just your general enjoyment. So I ran this through Corepile and it came out as a 5 out of 10, which is a 3-star rating. And I do think that 5 out of 10 is a pretty accurate rating for this. This felt like 2 separate books had been smashed into one, and it was so difficult to follow. Like, the pacing was just really, really off. And also it lost points for logic because a lot of this did not make sense to me. Like, Zoya is a dragon now? How? Where? What? How? I don't know. As you can probably tell, this is my least favourite book in the series so far, but Rule of Wolves does actually come out today. It's the official release date. I did pre-order it from Waterstones, but I don't think it's going to arrive today because I was too cheap to pay for the quick delivery. So that will arrive at some point in the next few days. I'll let you know when it does arrive and when I start reading it. But yeah, for now, this is the end of the King of Scars section of this vlog. So the next section will contain spoilers for Rule of Wolves. So if you haven't read that yet and you don't want to be spoiled, then please feel free to click off now. I won't be offended. But I do hope that you come back and rewatch this when you've read Rule of Wolves, because something tells me that the next book is gonna be interesting. Hey everyone, so it's been a few days and I wanted to do a quick update to let you know that, as you can probably tell, my copy of Rule of Wolves did arrive this morning, and this book is beautiful, and I think just seeing this book now in person makes me a lot more excited to read this, because even though I didn't love King of Scars, as I've talked about, you already know all the reasons why I didn't love it, but actually now on reflection, I've realised that King of Scars wasn't objectively bad. I mean, I don't think that there are many books that are objectively bad, but there was nothing wrong with the writing. I still love Leigh Bardugo's writing. It was more that the plot didn't go in a way that I personally wanted. And so this does still have the potential to be really enjoyable. I think that I could still really love this book. So I am trying to keep an open mind, and I don't actually know what the plot of this book is about. Obviously, now that the Darkling is back in the picture, that could change things a lot. I obviously didn't want the Darkling to come back. I wanted something a little bit more original and something a bit different. But I mean, we'll see. Like I said, I'm going to try and keep an open mind, and I still love Nina, and I'm still really interested to see how her storyline develops. So yeah, going to start this tonight, and I will let you know once I have thoughts. Okay, so I'm about 100 pages in now, and already I feel like Leigh Bardugo is not messing around with this book. Within these first 100 pages, we've already had a great big epic battle scene. There's lots of intrigue, and there's also a mystery because there's that that dark shadow that seems to be sweeping the nation or affecting certain areas around the whole world. And we think it might be to do with the Darkling, but we're not really sure because it seems quite similar to the Fold in that everything that it touches just dies. I'm also finding that whereas with King of Scars, I didn't like that the characters were so separate because it felt very disjointed. But in this book, because they have that common goal of trying to stop the Fierdans and the guy who is claiming to be the rightful heir to the throne and all of that's going on, you've got Nina trying to take things down from the inside, but then you're also seeing Nikolai and Zoya's perspective and how they're strategizing the war with all the politics, with the different countries, and I think that it just feels a lot more tied together. So yeah, I'm surprised by how much I am enjoying this so far. I'm finding that I want to keep on reading and that I don't want to put this down, so things are looking up. I'm actually really excited. Hey everyone, so I've got to the end of the first section, which I think is around the 250 page mark, and so far I don't have very strong feelings on this book. I'm enjoying it a lot more than King of Scars, and I think what has helped is that I've kind of accepted that this book is not going to go in a direction that I personally want it to. Certain things are going to happen that I don't want to happen, like Nikolai and Zoya getting together. I think that's pretty much guaranteed now. I don't like it, but other people might like it, and so I don't feel like I can have that as a criticism of this book. I was actually wondering before I even picked up King of Scars whether Alina and Mal were gonna make an appearance in this duology, and they've had their little cameo, and I feel like that's it now. They're gonna go back to obscurity and we're not gonna hear from them again, and they've played their part, so I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know how I feel in general of authors bringing back characters that have been away for a while, and sometimes it can work and sometimes it just doesn't really work and it ends up feeling a little bit pointless. But at the moment I'm really struggling to understand what is the point of the Darkling being brought back. Like, has he just been brought back because he was such a good villain in the first series, or is there a bigger purpose? I don't know. I feel like the conflict with the different countries and all of the politics that are going on, I feel like that alone could have carried the story. I've said this already, I don't think that the Darkling needed to come back. I think that this book could have been just as exciting and engaging without bringing back a villain that we thought was dead. It's almost like when you've been watching a TV show for a while and you're now on season 8 or 9, and you can tell that the producers are starting to run out of storylines, and so they decide to start bringing back old characters, and sometimes it works and sometimes it just doesn't work and it feels a bit stale. I don't know though, because I do still love this world and I feel so absorbed in what's going on and I want to know what's going to happen, and so it's hard because I don't want to feel like I'm hate reading this. I don't think I am hate reading this because I don't feel like I'm hating it. I feel like I'm just hating certain things, but well, you know what? I have faith. I have faith that Leigh Bardugo is going to provide a satisfying conclusion, even if it's not the conclusion that I want. I'm really confused because I've just started a new chapter and apparently they're having a funeral for David, which I didn't even know that he was dead. I don't know if that's just me, but at the end of the last section, it said that he was missing, and so I assumed that he'd been kidnapped. I didn't think that he was dead, and so I don't know what's really going on. Okay, so I've just gone back to read the last few pages of the last section, and I suppose it was kind of implied that something had happened to David because the laboratories were destroyed, but that just didn't really click. I don't know if that was just me, but yeah, I'm sad, but I feel like I should be more sad considering he was such an important character. And it feels a little bit anticlimactic. I've realised something about this series that hadn't quite clicked with me before, and that is the way that Leigh Bardugo writes mind control, which I don't know whether that is a specific trope or whether it's something that just I personally find really, really horrifying to read about. But whenever I come across a character or characters that have had their free will taken away from them and where they're no longer in control of their own actions, that to me is just, it makes my skin crawl, and it definitely brings out an emotional reaction. And especially in this book, when I got to the part in the dairy farm where you're seeing the full extent of how the Shu have been treating their Grisha, I felt like I was going to cry. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I think that the way that Leigh Bardugo includes that in this book is really impactful, and it definitely, like, it's affected me, and it's made my skin crawl, and it's done everything that I think it was meant to do. It's brought out all the reactions that it was meant to. I'm also starting to see how the Darkling storyline might tie into everything else, because he's just caught up with the cult that worships him, and it looks like he's going to lead them into battle and then show himself and reveal himself as being Ravka's saviour. And I actually don't mind that storyline. I think my main concern with the Darkling being back was that he was going to overshadow everything else that was going on. It looks like his part is going to be much smaller than I was worried about, and so that I'm okay with. I'm not hating it. I don't dislike the way that that's going. I'm also getting to a point now where it's been hinted that we might see a few of the characters from Six of Crows again, which I'm excited about. I'm hoping that we'll see a little bit of what their lives are like now and what they've been doing, and I hope they're happy. I hope that we get enough to kind of be satisfied. I'm really hoping that I haven't looked too much into that, but because we had a little cameo from Alina and Mal, I think it's quite safe to say that we are going to see the Six of Crows characters again. I'm going to be really disappointed if I've got that wrong. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm really starting to love this book. I really love the relationships. I think that Nina and Han and how their relationship has developed has just been perfect. I love Jesper and Wylan and seeing them again and how they're happy. And even Nikolai and Zoya, I don't hate their relationship anymore. I don't know how this book is going to end. I think I've got about 150-ish, less than 150 pages left. And I think it might break me. I feel very emotional already. So I don't know what to expect. I am really struggling to put this down. That last battle scene was just amazing, like incredible. And I think I've worked out what's going on. I think that Han has basically faked her own death. And so she's swapped places with the Prince of Fjerda. So she could end up ruling with Nina. Is that what's going to happen? I think. I don't know. I'm going to make a prediction and we'll see if I'm right. Good morning. So I am here to wrap up the vlog because I finished reading Rule of Wolves last night and I enjoyed this. I think that the ending was satisfying. I kind of predicted everything that was going to happen, but I was okay with it. There were certain things that were a little bit convenient, I thought, especially with regards to the Darkling. I don't know whether I loved that, but I didn't hate it. I didn't really have any strong feelings towards the end. I think I mentioned earlier in the vlog, I was expecting to feel very emotional because of the way that things were going. And so I guess in a way it did feel just a little bit too neat for my personal taste, but it was okay. I'm not crying over it. I have run this through Core Pile and it came out as a 3 stars, but like a high 3 stars, probably nearer to a 3.5. So I did enjoy this a lot more than King of Scars. I think if I was going to summarize this duology as a whole, I would say that there was so much going on and there was so much crammed into both of these books that didn't need to be there. I think that you could have easily stripped back some of the storylines or just removed certain storylines altogether, and it would have been much stronger because there would have been more time to focus on other plot points. What I loved most about this series was definitely Nina's character and how her storyline progressed throughout both of these books. I think for that reason, I am really glad that I read this series. I don't regret reading this series. I think after King of Scars, I was kind of thinking, oh no, have I made a mistake? Should I have just stopped at the end of Crooked Kingdom? But no, I am glad that I read these books, and I think that they are what they are. Things might not have gone exactly the way that I wanted them to, but I'm okay with that. But yeah, I think I'm going to end the vlog here. So thanks for watching. If you've made it this far, I'm going to assume if you've made it this far, it's because you've read both of these books. So let me know in the comments what you thought of them and whether you were happy with the ending. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was just kind of meh like I did? And yeah, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Have I said that already? I can't remember. I will see you in the next one. Bye.